everybody, it's Creative Crafts and I'm Kathy. Today I'm going to show you how you can actually repair something that's gotten broken. One of my favorite decorations. It hangs on the wall. It's actually a deer with huge antlers. Fell on the floor, the antlers shattered. I'm happy that this thing did not totally break up. I'm going to try to repair this on my own with the paper mache clay. So let's see what we can start with. First we need to fill the inside so that doesn't happen again. So we'll get newspaper and some tape. It's tape I want to use. First comes first, you gotta fill it. So I can make the form in the back better that way. Be very careful if you're going to do something like this. It's pretty sharp on the sides, but I will get this done. So what we have to do is try to make it like a flat back, so when it hangs directly here and like this. Hangs on the wall like this. It has to be flat. It's not going to be sticking, like it'll go like this or go like this. You have to make sure it's even. So, doubt this will help, but we'll see. Don't like using this tape. This tape is pretty cheap. So one thing I can suggest you to do is go like this. Cover it pretty good. So then you can put the paper, first, like I always tell you, you need to put paper mache over it first. Like I told you, this tape I don't like very much because it's cheap. But if it holds until after I put the paper mache over it, it should be fine. Like I said, don't try to be... I had a gargoyle out of the same material. Of course, got broken again because of my son. And he's an older boy, 19, he's going to be 19. Once we put the paper mache over it first, before we put the clay, at first it doesn't look too good, but once you put the clay on it, it'll look better. It doesn't stick very well, which I can't stand. That's just for a frame, a mold. So you put paper mache over it. You don't want to fill it up with the paper mache clay inside. This makes it more stable and not so heavy. It was hollow in the first place. But right now maybe it'll be even better because it's filled now inside. You see, it's supposed to be, once I get this done, put the paper over it, the paper mache, let it dry. And once it's dry, I could actually put the clay on it, the paper mache clay. like I told you, I love to recycle and I hate throwing things away. If I can fix it some way, I'll try to find a way to fix it. Could be now. It'll probably even look better when I'm done. For me, the antlers were too small. I'll get my paper that I already ripped up. See, I already have paper all prepared, always in hand. Grab a whole bunch of it, put it up here. I don't want to put paper mache on this part, just on the part where the tape is, to cover that for now. Doesn't have to be perfect. No, that's the wrong one. That's glue. Don't need glue. I need the wallpaper paste. I always end up using old wallpaper paste from when I renovated my living room or any other room. Just take the old paste. Don't worry about it getting on your hands. Just like I said, make sure there's no children around when you do something like this, because this stuff is not really good for children to put in their mouth. So now we're going to make the antlers. We start out with the form. We're not gluing them on now. We have to wait until that dries. Let's put it in a place that's safe. And then use our wire. So I said to use wire at first just as to make the form that you need. What I would do is I recommend if you twist it together, all of it. Show you when I'm done. You know, just twist it. So it's easier to work with. This is the big part, which is probably going to connect to the head. It's not the little antlers. Just make sure you twist it, because if you don't twist it, it'll be difficult to work with. It's like one big piece now. So you go like this, you're debating how big you want it. I don't want it too big, so I'm going to say, okay, this is a big head. The antlers I think were about this long. Fold it. And if you want to, you can always look online for what the antlers should look like. That's what I think I'll do right now to make sure I get it perfect. So now we start out with the deer heads. This is the bottom, which connects here. It'll get a bit thicker once you use the newspaper, but first I would just suggest to make the form that you want. You don't want that, so let's mix this one together like this. So, and once you put the newspaper on, you can form the antlers the way you want. So right now I need some more. Sometimes it's a lot of work to do these things, but you know, it's worth it once you see that you actually saved something instead of worrying about, because a head like this of a deer with antlers costs pretty much like $100. or maybe a little bit less. You don't want to have to go out and spend some more money on it. If long as the head part is still intact, you can, and just gonna make the antlers and fix the back like I just did. When we're done, you will see what I'm talking about. It's actually really worth the effort. So let's do this side. It's not gonna look like real antlers at first because it's just a wire. But once you get the wire, there's one thing I suggest: don't use wood pieces, because wood pieces you can't bend to make it curled like an antler would be, and you can curve the antlers like so. If you use wood, you can't do that. It has to be the wire. I mean, you can make your own head out of paper mache if you want. You just make a big ball of paper. I need to cut these two in half because these can't be cut. Like I said, twist it to make sure that it doesn't move around the wire when you have it doubled. Doubling the wire makes it a little bit more stable for the paper once you put it on there. You have to, like I said, as always, you need to put paper on it first. Paper mache, and then once it's dried, then you can add the clay that you made. So let's see how we want to do this one. Let's put this one down here first. That's what I love about wire. Just keep twisting it until there's no more. Be careful because sometimes it can prick you like a needle. So try to be careful. So, and then twist, like I said. Well, now we're going to start with one more antler on this one. And then we can make the next one. I want to make sure we make both sides pretty much the same. So what you do is, like I told you, you gotta like bend it a little bit. I mean, you can fix it once the paper is on there too. It still will be bendable. Just don't do it too much because it'll rip it. Once you get, it's pretty much like antlers right now. I don't know if you can see it over here. Put this here. Come this way. Yeah, it goes on the inside like that. So I'm going to try to make two of these. Put paper mache over it. First we need to make the form with paper. Squished up paper with tape. Make the form that we need. I can see how thick it needs to be, so it's going to be pretty good. And once you put the paper on and you notice it still looks kind of stubby or short, you can still add paper on top a little bit further and make it bigger if you want. It's your choice how you want it to look. So let's make the second one, because you don't want it to look total different, so you have to make sure you follow. So now I have two of my antlers, the form pretty much done, and now it's time, as you can see, time to put the paper on. Get a whole newspaper, see, like here. Try to take this half that you took and just don't roll it up, but squish it up like this. And what I suggest is you take tape. Try to find a tape that you know that sticks well. I like to buy this cheap electrical tape. You buy it at a dollar store. Because it does work better than this tape. So what I do is do this, put the tape on it, and then twist. It doesn't have to be perfectly thick, because you can fix that with the clay when you put the paper mache over it after this. Put some more tape on that end. And this is what I do. So you know that it sticks pretty good. So that once you put I'll use this one for that. See, this is what you do to the whole thing, both sides. And then once you get it all the same thickness, double check all the time. And then you can start with the paper mache over it. Like I said, you take this and just crumble it up. Not roll it, crumble it up. Because if you roll it, it's not going to get that thick. Tape. And then don't worry about for when you get next to these areas where the other part of the antlers are. Just try to go around it. You can form it, like I said. You can fix it later once you get the paper on the main part of the antlers, which is the fat part, the biggest part. So take a little more tape. So here are the two antlers I made. Wrapped it with paper and tape. Looks pretty good, I think. And like I suggested before, cut the end flat so that you can sit it on the head correctly. I mean, if you want to make a headpiece, you can get a plastic bandana that gets on top. You can glue those onto it, so you can make it yourself as a costume. You don't need to use the clay. You can just wrap it with paper mache and then glue that to the headpiece and put paper mache around the headpiece, and then when it's dried, paint it. It's so many great ideas you can do with this stuff here. So there's my glue. I suggest that you get a bowl that you can sit it on top of like this. These two little pieces won't stick so tough onto it once it's wet with the paper mache. I suggest you to do this and then put it aside and let it dry. So let me show you what I'm talking about once I get this paper off. So like I said one time before, don't be sparsam with the glue. The less glue you use, the less it'll stick. So, don't glue the bottom with the paper. I think if you do it like this, you don't only need one layer because it doubles up itself anyway. And this is all you need to do through the whole thing. It's very quick. The only process that takes time is for when you want it to dry. You have to wait until it completely dries before you put any kind of clay on it. I'm just repairing my deer head that my son broke, like I said at the beginning. So, but like I said, like you can see here, antlers from deers are not perfect. So if you just want to go ahead and just paint them, you can do that too. You don't have to use the clay. Like I said, this is just a tutorial on what I did to repair my deer head so I didn't have to throw it away. Because, like I said, I'm a recycle guru and I hate throwing stuff away. I don't know who does, but like I said, you know, I'm not going to form it perfect. But if you're just going to leave the paper on it, then I suggest you to try to form it with your hands to make it perfect. So easy to work with, it's light. And once paper is wet, it's so easy to form with. I do this all the time with my Halloween projects, which will be coming up too around Halloween. Show you how to make your own life-size figures. That's one antler. This is from wire, paper, and paper mache. Wait till it dries. You can either paint it, make the head for it, make a headband with it, Halloween costume, carnival costume. You can use it for anything. But like I said, I'm usually doing this for my antlers for the headpiece I had. My son ended up breaking on me. So you have to make this, make sure that it's pretty much the same as the last one, and then do that too. So here are the two antlers for my headpiece for my deer that my son broke, like I said many times. Now I just gotta wait for it to dry. And that's all you have to do. So you see now that everything here has dried very well. Now it's time to glue the horns back onto the head. Make sure you put plenty of glue. Once we glue both these together, I will start putting Old Folk dough over it. So as you can see here, I glued the antlers on. Looks pretty good. Just got to put the clay on it. I'm going to use Old Folk dough, which is just flour and salt. I already have a video online for that. Now I will glue my hook on it, something I made myself. Flexible wire. So I bent it like this so I can glue it on like this first. So you see here now that I had put the Old Folk dough over the paper in the back. Here I wanted to make it flat. So what I would do is like use like a rolling pin effect, but not too high because you don't want to spread it. I just want to have it flat. So this is what I'm going to do with it first. So just make sure that this part is the flat area here. This can be good. I'll take this brush now and try to blend it in with, so it's not too thick there. It doesn't look funny. You also use sandpaper to sand it down once it dries. Should be fine too. As you know, if you can notice these imprints in the deer head, I'm going to try to do that with this brush, but I think this brush is not hard enough. We need to get a different brush. Harder one. What are you eating, Jackson? Okay, I guess this is the one I can use, I guess. Has to be this one. Oh, maybe this one, the bigger one. And then what I'm going to try to do is make the little lines like the head has on it, but very gentle. You don't want to you can also make these lines when you paint it from the paint. You just add some kind of use thicker paint. And then you can do that too. There's all kinds of different things you can do. Old Folk dough is this here. It's just flour, salt, and water. That's it. Very easy to work with. Don't need to use too much of it. So right now I'm just going to make it flattened. And do it like this. Don't use gloves with this, because if you use the gloves will stick to this paste. What you can also do is just take some flour, stick it on your hand, and then when you want to mold it better and it doesn't want to, you don't want it to stick to you, you can do that too. With the Old Folk dough, the flour and salt dough. Because the paper mache clay doesn't really, it's not so sticky like this. Like I said, form it to how you want it. I may not have enough. I may have to make some more. But basically this is what you do. You just cover it the way you want it. You can use paper mache clay. You can use this clay or toilet paper clay. I suggest don't use toilet paper clay because I just don't like working with that. I made it, worked with it, and it's too brittle. Maybe I need to work with it and add different stuff to it. But basically, as you see here, what I'm doing, making sure that it's rounded. My pencil. You know, you can just, you know, that one. This one will be better. You know, like I said, roll it out very gently. Or you can use the brush to flatten it. Or you use a knife. You can do it any way you want. I want to show you this here, what I did here. This is the head. So now you see what I'm talking about here in the front. Just squeeze it out thin. See how thick it is here? Take it and spread it. You see how different it looks now? Same goes, oops, I just bent one of my antlers. See, this is what you need to do to, I can't lay it down because it's wet. But this is basically what you do. Don't do it too hard, just do it gently and pull a little bit. You see how it's not so bad with the indents? Turn it around. See here? Right here what this looks like. What you do is just go like this, like I said. Don't use your fingers because you get fingerprint indents in it and you don't want to have that. You want it to mix in. Eye. See how different it looks now? It doesn't matter how far it spreads. Once it dries, like I said, you can sand it if you want, or if it looks fine the way it is, just paint over it. Just like this, see that? Very gentle. You don't want to have all these indents here that you see in here. So like I said, just take the brush, go around it gently to mix it in. Try not to touch the back because you already fixed it. But once you use texture paint, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Use texture paint. That's a little bit thicker. You can add any color to it, but basically I'm going to paint this only white. And you can fix any kind of indents or imperfections, but it's your work. It doesn't. It has to have the imperfections. I mean, it doesn't look perfect right now because it's wet, but once it's dried, and painted, you'll say, "Oh, great job." So let's do this. Put it back here. So. I have to glue down here a little bit because I bent the antlers by mistake. Once the clay is on, the dries, it's hard as rock and you don't have to worry about it breaking. But right now it kind of broke it a little bit here, so I'll work on this side first. Add this. I need my brush. Small enough to put it in between. There you go, that's better. one way of doing it like this. So you can see that it bends in the way it should. I mean, you can do that through the whole process with this too. You can do this and spread it like this way if you want. And I mean, that's no problem either. But I think, in my opinion, it's too thin. It gets too thin. If you use your fingers, it stays thick. And you want a nice thickness to it, except for here near the ends. So, let's use this. And do it gently if you want, not press too hard like I did just a few minutes ago. But yeah, that looks pretty good. Not too good. I'm sure that's hot already. I have to spit me. It looks pretty good. Once you get all the paste on it the way it should. But in my opinion, I think I should just wait until the bottom part dries. And then I can set it up like this even better. Better work with it. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this stuff off. Oh no, I'll leave it on there. Let it dry.